What's up, YouTube? JazzX Captain here for another build for Warlock. Today we're going to be talking about Arc Warlock, which there are builds out there for Arc Warlock, but Arc Warlock just isn't in like the most amazing place right now because of various void builds that are dominating and various solar builds that are dominating, and volatile rounds is huge for all those builds. Now today I'm going to show you my favorite build that is definitely viable in many modes, even some endgame content, including Legend Lost Sectors. Although today's Legend Lost Sector does not complement Arc anyway, because you actually take damage from Arc. And the gameplay I'm showing you is from Defiant Battlegrounds, and as you can see from the gameplay, we keep our Arc souls up almost the entire encounter. So without further ado, my Arc Warlock build. Starting off with our exotic is Getaway Artist, which next to Geomags and Crown of Tempest has been a staple for Arc Warlock since they've been a thing. And it allows us to make a supercharged version of our already existing Arc Soul that we will be able to create from our aspects. Now, your rifts and your jump are all personal preference. I choose Healing Rift, and for my jump I choose Strafe Glide because I like having directional control when I'm in the air. Now the melee that you see me using in the video is the Ball of Lightning, and I would recommend actually using Chain of Lightning since it jolts targets. This is good because it can stun overload champions and spread arc damage to other enemies near the jolted target. Onto the grenade. This is all personal preference again, because you're going to be consuming your grenade. But I choose the Blinding Nade for unstoppable champions. Now you're probably thinking, Jazz, why would you choose Blinding Nade when you're consuming the grenade all the time? Well, that's because when Sentient Arc Soul is up, it lasts 20 seconds. And when you activate your Rift, it refreshes the cooldown time of your Sentient Arc Soul that you get from Getaway Artists. And the thing is by the time you've already got it recharged, you've probably killed some enemies. And then if an unstoppable champion comes up, you throw the Blinding Nade on them and it completely stuns them. And then you just shred with whatever other stuff you have. Now onto the aspects. For our first aspect, this is going to be the most important thing for our build, which is Arc Soul. When you cast your Rift, you will create an Arc Soul for you and anyone who passes through your Rift. You will become amplified. It supercharges you and gives you increased handling, and it also increases the fire rate of your Arc Souls. Now, like I said about your grenade, when you consume it with Getaway Artist, it gives you the Sentient Arc Soul cooldown refreshed. The next aspect is going to be Electrostatic Mine. This is great for the build because when you defeat targets with your arc abilities, including Arc Souls, you have a chance to create Ionic Traces, which will make you amplified, which increases your movement speed and gives you the speed booster buff and increases weapon handling, and Ionic Traces will recharge your abilities. Next, we have the fragments. I've seen many different combinations of arc fragments at work, and ones I'm going to show you in almost all content from the tests that I've done have done really well. It's definitely not up to par with Void or Solar, but it's definitely fun. It's fun having the little arc buddy just sitting on your shoulder shooting everything. Now, the first fragment I'm going to talk about is Spark of Beacons, which, if you're doing Lost Sectors that have unstoppable champions, other enemies that are near the champions using a special weapon, and you kill those targets with your special weapon, will cause a blinding explosion, which stuns unstoppable champions. Now, if you consume your grenade, you will automatically become amplified thanks to the Arc Soul fragment, which you need to be amplified for this aspect to blind. So, consume the Arc Grenade, become amplified, use your special weapon to kill enemies near the champion gets blinded, the champion gets stunned, delete the champion. The next fragment is Spark of Resistance, which passively gives you 10 strength, but also makes you more resistant to incoming damage when surrounded by combatants. And that's about it for that fragment. It just makes you a little bit tankier, and that's okay. You can't go wrong with a little bit of survivability. Now the third fragment is Spark of Ions, which if you defeat jolted targets, you create an Ionic Trace. Now our melee jolts targets. That'll give us an Ionic Trace from Spark of Ions. This is wonderful as it is another source for your abilities to get back faster, and you can use a variety of arc weapons such as Forbearance, arc fusion rifles, even arc SMGs, arc auto rifles, basically anything that can roll with Volt Shot, and again, Forbearance and arc fusion rifles. The last fragment is Spark of Amplitude, which this is very important. It spawns an orb of power when you rapidly defeat targets while amplified. Well, when you already have Sentient Arc Soul up from Getaway Artists, you're automatically amplified. And since amplified is constantly up, you're just going to be generating orbs from all the arc kills from your arc weapons. And that is about it for the aspects and fragments and the build. Now, the super, I mean, you can use any super you want. If you're trying to do like endgame content, I personally recommend Chaos Reach, just because of the range, and most of the time you're not going to be Emperor Palpatining bosses and whatnot. So now for the mods on your gear. Really, all the mods can be personal preference, but I'm going to tell you the mods I use for most of the content that I've been doing. So for my helmet, I'm using any ammo finder. Specifically, I'm using special ammo finder for my forbearance. And you can use anything you want. It's all of your choice. And since for my build, I'm running forbearance, I'm using Harmonic Siphon, which generates orbs on rapid kills using a weapon of your matching subclass, which for us only costs 1 energy, which is really nice. And then I'm using Dynamo for faster super cooldown when you're using abilities new targets. You're going to be constantly trying to keep that 20-minute timer up with Sentient Arc Souls and your Rift. You're going to be near enemies. You're going to generate super. You're going to generate Ionic Traces. It's just a constant cycle, and the super is going to be coming pretty fast. And the nice thing about using the super is you don't have to use the whole super. Kill the enemy if you got a little bit of super left. Nice thing about Chaos Reach is it just kind of like stores itself. It's like, oh, you got a little bit left. All right, we go from there. Now, for our gloves, I'm using an arc loader, and you can use an arc loader for whatever arc weapons you're using. And then I'm using 1 grenade kickstart and 1 font of discipline for increased discipline when I have armor charges. Since this season it's all about armor charges, they're extremely important. And more discipline means faster recharge rate of our grenades. In the chest piece, like all others, you can choose whatever stats you want. So resilience, discipline, recovery, whatever you want. I try to have high discipline with my builds, and it just keeps the Sentient Arc Soul up as long as possible. The mods are really up for preference since most of them provide resistances, so I chose Font of Endurance, which gives me more resilience. Can't complain about taking less damage. And I have any kind of damage resistant mods based on whatever activity I'm doing. Next up is our boots. This can basically run whatever surge mods you want, preferably whatever your heavy is for damage and when you have an armor charge, but I use Void and Arc surge mods because this build, I like to use Two-Tailed Fox, because if you have the catalyst for Two-Tailed Fox, the third rocket, which is Arc, jolts targets, or if you want, you can use Thunderlord, which is actually going to give you overload rounds. Lastly is our class item. Since armor charges are important to many of our builds, we'll definitely slot in a time dilation to increase the time of our armor charges being up, and then despite having diminishing returns, we use 2 bomber mods that when we cast our Rift, which we will most likely be using either to survive or to refresh our Sentient Arc Souls, we'll recharge our grenade cooldown when we cast it. So that's about it for my Arc Warlock build. If you made it this far, I'll have screenshots here at the end of the video. And thank you so much for watching, and I appreciate the feedback from the last video. Please don't forget to give the video a like, stay high in the comments, and subscribe if you'd like to see other build videos in the future. If you'd like to catch me live, I stream on Twitch Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Thank you again. Peace out.